Sometimes a film just seems to capture the feeling of the time that it was released, or, if you will, the zeitgeist of a particular era. And that brings us to today's film. This is the Kazdoy Closet. I'm Kazdoy, and that's my closet, full of all the stuff that I love. And today, a film that became sort of a touchstone of the 80s. It also shocked audiences back then. But is it still shocking? Let's check it out. Today's film is Fatal Attraction from 1987, 2 hours long, in color. This one is about a New York City lawyer who hooks up with a woman while his wife is out of town. But the woman becomes immediately obsessed with him and makes his life a living hell. Michael Douglas plays the lawyer. Obviously, he's the son of the great Kirk Douglas. And I remember him first from a TV series called Streets of San Francisco from 72 to 77. He played a detective with Carl Malden. Pretty amazing to think the two of them were in a series together playing cops. But Michael Douglas also was in several successful films, such as Wall Street, for which I believe he won the Oscar. The China Syndrome, Basic Instinct, all of those got a lot of notoriety and were somewhat controversial. Glenn Close plays the woman obsessed with him. Her name's Alex in the film. And she's had an interesting career as well. I'm thinking mainly of Reversal of Fortune and Jagged Edge. And she's currently, or she at least was currently, in a streaming series called Tehran, which is really good. And the director was Adrian Lyne. And he has kind of a knack for making films that capture the public's attention, like Flashdance. That kind of led to a whole fashion trend, really. And 9.5 Weeks and Indecent Proposal, another controversial headline-grabbing film. So how would you categorize Fatal Attraction? Well, you could say maybe it's an erotic thriller, or it's a stalker movie. It kind of created a subgenre of movies where characters think they know somebody pretty well or meet somebody once, and it turns out that they're just crazy and become obsessed stalkers in the film. The impact in 1987 was quite big. I think part of it might be because the AIDS crisis was, at the highest level during the 80s and into the early 90s. So maybe this was sort of a cautionary tale or a parable about watch out who you're sleeping with. And I'm not going to say spoiler alert. Okay, well, spoiler alert. But look, this film is 36 years old. So you probably know this film, or you know what it is already. But the Glenn Close character tells Michael Douglas that she's pregnant. So there's another sort of safe sex warning related to this film. Now, the big climax in the bathtub when Glenn Close's character, you think she's dead in the bathtub and she rises out suddenly, that was it got a big audience reaction when that happened in the theater. How do I know that? Because I was in the theater in 1987 watching this, and people went crazy. They jumped out of their seats, sort of like the last scene in the original Carrie, where people just jumped out of their seats in that cemetery scene. The title of Fatal Attraction even became part of our vernacular or part of our vocabulary. You knew what fatal attraction meant when you used that phrase. It means somebody that you're attracted to, but it becomes a fatal attraction. It goes really wrong. It was also rated R in 1987, and took some big swings as far as eroticism, language, all kinds of language is used, nudity. Glenn Close is quite topless in a few scenes in this film, and Michael Douglas is really digging in there. So all that also added to the controversy of this film. So how has Fatal Attraction aged so many years later? Well, it's been so much imitated that the ending with the bathtub scene, the jump scare, kind of loses its impact because it's been done so many times since then. And plus, there's been so many films with this plot that, if you've seen Fatal Attraction once, then as soon as you see Glenn Close appear in the film, she's crazy. Don't you know she's crazy? So that kind of takes the impact away from it. If this film were made today or set in the present time, the existence of cell phones would make this like 5 minutes long, because I don't think Michael Douglas would be able to get away with what he's getting away with. Glenn Close is making anonymous phone calls via landlines. Now with a cell phone, of course, you know it was her, or you know that this person was nobody in your contacts, so you wouldn't even pick it up. So a lot of those things, I know that applies to a lot of older films. There's no cell phones, but in particular, watching this, I was thinking cell phones would make so much of this not even able to exist anymore. And there's, so there are some anachronisms with the landlines. There's an answering machine that plays into it. Glenn Close's character sends Michael Douglas's character a cassette tape in which she unloads on him about what a piece of crap he is, and he listens to that. Well, I don't know about you, but I haven't listened to a cassette tape in a long time. So those anachronisms kind of stick out in this film. Not too much, but you kind of notice them. Other things about it aging include the fact that he's seems to be a smart guy. He's a pretty high-profile lawyer in New York City. I mean, they even say he might be a partner soon in this firm. And yet he spends like 2 days on the street, Central Park, and walking down the street hand in hand and cavorting with Glenn Close's character and kissing her and stuff. I thought, yeah, okay, New York City's a big city, but he's a high-profile guy. I think he'd be a little more discreet than that. She even asked him if he is discreet or not. And then the other thing I thought was, are we supposed to sympathize with the Michael Douglas character? I mean, he does cheat on his wife, his very beautiful, very nice wife, played by Anne Archer. And he comes out okay. I mean, he's a little scarred, I'm sure. But she takes him back, and his stalker is dead. So he had his fun, and he's okay again, right? And then the big ending, which takes place in the bathroom, where Anne Archer's getting ready to take a bath, and then Glenn Close's character comes in, and there's a lot of screaming and glass breaking, and then the whole thing with the bathtub, and then finally Anne Archer's character shoots the Glenn Close character and kills her. And through all this, their 4-year-old daughter is apparently asleep, even though she woke up early in the film when they were having a quiet little argument. She sleeps with this whole thing. So I thought, how this kid sleeps with this? It's pretty amazing. But despite all those criticisms, this is a really entertaining, very involving, fast-moving film that I was really into when I was watching it again so many years later. It's well directed, it's well photographed, it's well acted. I stayed up past my bedtime because I wanted to see how this film was going to end. I was just really enjoying it a lot. So for that, I'm going to give this one 4.5 bunnies out of 5. Why bunnies? Well, if you've seen the film, you know why. The little girl has a pet bunny, and something terrible happens to that bunny involving a pot of boiling water. So what's on this disc? This is a Paramount Presents disc, and it opens up with a full, rather iconic poster like that. You can see the full poster there. And it looks fine, sounds fine. There are a few extras on here. You have a 7-minute piece with Adrian Lyne talking about his favorite moments from the film and explaining why those are his favorites. I thought that was really good. There is a 12-minute alternate ending, which is very interesting. It's a much tamer ending, but just like in the film that was released with this ending, Anne Archer saves his ass yet again. And then finally, there's some rehearsal footage, about 7 minutes. That's really interesting too. It's basically, you see the back of Michael Douglas, so it focuses on a scene with Glenn Close and a scene with Anne Archer. And they're really going for it, even though it's a rehearsal. They're really acting it out and crying and screaming and everything. But the interesting thing is they did it in an office, like a nondescript office of one of the studio executives. So it's interesting to see that incongruity between what you see in the film and then they're doing it again, but it's in a plain office setting. So that was really interesting. So where can you see Fatal Attraction? Well, it is streaming on Showtime right now. You can rent it. You might try your local library. You can always buy it. This was on sale at Amazon, they had a sale on almost all their Paramount Presents discs for $12.99, which is almost half price. So if you want to buy it, I would wait for that sale again to show up. Otherwise, that's it for Fatal Attraction. So feel free to leave a comment or suggestion down below. Leave a thumbs up. Don't leave a thumbs down. Subscribe would be great. Be great. Share this with your friends and neighbors. I do want to give a shout out, as the kids say, to some recent remarks since my last episode. Recent comments. I got one from Goodman's Ghost. I got one from Neil and one from Roger. And Roger also became a subscriber. So thanks, guys. So feel free to subscribe and share this with your friends and neighbors. Otherwise, thanks for watching. See you next time.